We're rolling, quiet on the set.
I look weird.
We've got a minute.
Okay. Ready? Hello, everyone. Just 1 minute. Okay. Thanks for your patience. No, Tony looks better. Okay. We're nearly ready. 7 seconds. It's Jay. That's okay. Okay. Happy New Year's, everyone. And welcome to the TIBET Center. Kunchab Tardu Ling, a Buddhist meditation and study center located in New York City and northern New Jersey. That's Tuesdays in New York City and Wednesdays in New Jersey. This is our twice-weekly presentation of the Buddha Dharma. Specifically, this is a talk entitled Dharamsala Through the Eyes of a Western Nun. All the prayers are available on our website under the FAQ section. Scroll down to prayers. If there's a problem with the sound or anything else, please let Darren or Tony know right away. If there's anyone who you wish us to pray for, please put their names in the chat box for later.
I don't have a chat box, but for the 64 more journalists that were killed in.
So we'll be adding the 64 journalists that were killed later on. So thank you. And hello to everyone, to Steve and Leslie. Welcome. And so we'll begin with the prayers of the spreading of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living here, together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to the practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. And now the Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the dharmas called profound illumination. And at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones who learn to wish to follow profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered, Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form. Form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors in consciousness are empty. Thus, all doors are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. they neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no cessation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nindandas to ignorance, to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, knowing and clearly awakened, the unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms self-suffering, should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed. Tayata Om Gate Gate Para Gate Para Samgate Bodhisoha. O Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family. Profound transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you are taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Shariputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the worlds with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praise the word of the Blessed. And now we say the refuge and bodhicitta prayer 3 times. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain, and to dispel the miseries of the world. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Guided by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind of full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, till then I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you, everyone. And thank you all for joining. For those who don't know me from my last visit in the summer, my name is Tenzin Karuna. This name was given to me by Jada Rinpoche. Jada Rinpoche was the 6th incarnation of the abbot of Jada Monastery in Tibet, close to Lhasa. He fled India, as many did, and later became the abbot of His Holiness's temple, Namgyal, in Dharamsala. He travels a lot throughout the world and gives lots of teachings and empowerments, but still lives in Namgyal, close to where he ordained me. Now, my first name is Tenzin because all monks and nuns are given the first name of the person who ordains them. So Jada Rinpoche was initially ordained by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, whose first name is Tenzin. And if you've seen on His Holiness's website all the pictures of numerous ordination ceremonies with many monks and nuns in them, you can imagine just how many Tenzins there are in Dharamsala. We even have a Tenzin among our flock who's not here right now, but in New Jersey. So long story a bit shorter, I, like many nuns and monks, go with my second name, which is Karuna. I was I was ordained a couple of years ago. So COVID was still on everyone's mind, including mine. And when Jada Rinpoche announced my name at the ceremony, my first thought was, oh no, it sounds like Corona. And I just wasn't very happy at all. Yeah, it's, of course, I quickly came around as Karuna is Sanskrit for compassion, which is one of the most important ideas in Tibetan Buddhism. That and wisdom, which is prajna in Sanskrit. It is actually an unusual name because most people have a name given to a Tibetan name, and this Karuna is actually Sanskrit. I have to admit, it's not easy to live up to this name, but each day I do try my hardest. So sometimes I find that Jackie, in my previous name, is much easier to live up to, as it doesn't mean anything. So you can also call me Jackie. There's also a generic term for nun in Tibetan, which is Annie, which is equivalent to sister, referring to a Christian nun. But Annie means aunt. So most people add the term la at the end. So I get called Annie La a lot when I'm in Dharamsala. This is a great name for someone like me who doesn't remember names. So if you need to talk to the nun 2 seats ahead of you, you can call out Anila without feeling embarrassed and having to ask her name for the 3rd time. So for those of you who are bad at names, you can also just call me Hey You. I totally understand. It's funny because since I've been here, there's a lot of people in the street, well, not a lot, but 2 people in the street that try and sell you things or get you to sign up for something. And both of them have called me the lady in red, which I totally don't like. So if you're going to choose between the 2, please use Hey You, which is much better. Oh yeah, Karuna is fine, but Hey You is also fine. So I'm visiting here from Dharamsala, where I go to school until February 22nd. At that point, I'm going on a pilgrimage to the great Buddhist sites in India. I told Geshe Lakdor I was going on a pilgrimage, on a train pilgrimage, and he's like, to see the Buddhist sites. And he was like, what, in America? I was like, no, silly, in India. Buddha was born in India. So anyway, so after that, I start a new school year at the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives in Dharamsala. So Tony and Kensor Rinpoche Nicholas Vreeland have kindly given me the chance to talk to you during my stay. I love the Dharma, and I look forward to sharing some of that love with you. So I want to apologize for my hippie-like appearance. I love saying that when my hair is long. This is actually really long for a nun. When I became a nun, I was told that you can only let your hair grow to be 2 fingers in width. It can only be this high. And right now I'm like at 1.5 fingers high. So it's pretty close. But to be honest with you, while I'm here, I try and keep it a little longer because my parents get a little freaked out when I have really short hair. They're really happy that I'm a nun. And they're very supportive, but still the hair really bothers them. So I keep it on the long side. And it's important to keep your parents happy. They're important in your life. And what the hey, it's just hair, so I don't mind growing it. You actually can't become ordained unless you have your parents' approval. So the parents are very important in Buddhism as well as in Western culture.
Really, even if they're not alive?
I was very lucky being an only child that my parents were actually open to me becoming a nun, and they agreed because you actually have to get their approval. It's funny, I call them every night at 7 or whenever, and I asked them the first time and they were like, well, can't you wait 5 years? And I took that as a no. So I was like, oh, that's a shame I don't become ordained then. But then I called them the next night and they had thought about it and they want me to be happy. So they said yes. It just took them one day to come around. So that was very nice of them. And they were both lucky enough to have met Rinpoche when I used to go to the center in the lower Broadway. My mom actually read his book, and my dad was so taken with him that he has a picture up of him. I met Rinpoche, the founder of the center, Chumla Rato Rinpoche, and attended class in the early through late 90s. At that time, I had just graduated mathematics from Barnard College here in New York City and had a good financial job, which paid for my master's in applied mathematics at Krant Institute at NYU. But now let's break for water. I'm just kidding, I actually do want to break. But now let's break from me and put the spotlight on you guys. I want to first thank you for being here, physically and remotely. I think it's very important that you all take some time to thank yourselves. You could be doing a multitude of many mundane tasks, but instead, here you are wanting to work towards becoming happier individuals to improve your lives and the world around you, make your present and future circumstances easier, and lessen life's inevitable punches, and be open to a world of beauty and meaning. In other words, you want to become more enlightened people. All I can say is well done you. It's extremely commendable goal. Most people have sadly given up, thrown in the towel, and settled for a life of discontentment. Now, never being able to relieve their inner discomfort or quieten that restless force inside them, which actually believes the answer to their happiness lives outside in the world's plethora of external things. Never being able to really relieve that unending itch that we all have of never being really content. Maybe for a few minutes here and there, but not for the long run. So thank goodness you guys know better. You have woken up from that vicious cycle, knowing that external things don't quite cut it. Bravely looking for answers elsewhere from within. Why brave? Because here in the West, looking for answers within for a happier, more contented life is what everyone does. So the fact that you're looking within means that you're actually being very innovative. And we've been doing this for thousands of years, looking outside. And it's so ingrained and hard for us not to focus outside for our happiness. And so you're going against the mainstream Western culture. In other words, you guys are actually trailblazers. And for those of you lucky enough to be born in Buddhist countries or be brought up in a Buddhist family where faith and reliance on the Dharma runs a lot deeper, I am sure it's very difficult to walk the line between these two cultures. Very few people have done this before, Yet you bravely stay true to your Buddhist heritage in the midst of all this hedonism. So good job, everyone. Yay! Take a minute and give yourself credit and support. A much earned pat on the back. Out of the big world of samsara, sometimes you don't feel like you get a lot of support. Many people seem to want to knock you down. But to counter this, it's important to have good self-esteem. But as a fence sitter, I just want to point out that just because there's people that seem to want to knock you down, you can't blame them either. It's not their responsibility. It's those pesky, poisonous afflictions, such as selfish competition, pride, aggression, running wild. For a long time, my self-esteem was so low, I could barely take a compliment, let alone pat myself on the back. If someone at work told me, "Oh, you did a great job with that project," I would say something negative about it instead of acknowledging the compliment and admitting I had done a good job. I even did this with my sewing hobby. I just loved different fabrics, elaborately designed French fabrics, and made skirts out of them. People would give me compliments, and I would point out the smallest mistake that no one would ever spot. Silly me. And so I didn't even need to stab myself. I didn't need other people to stab me in the back because I was already doing it for myself. Silly me. I had no idea that I was actually doing this. I was quite oblivious. It just goes to show it's very hard to judge from within. It wasn't until another woman at work pointed out my inability to take compliments because she did the same thing. So when we gave each other compliments, we would make a face if the other one didn't just take it and say thank you. Once I finally came to terms with how silly my behavior was, I put great effort into improving my self-esteem. It's not like I could say, okay, tomorrow at 2 p.m., I'm suddenly going to have really good self-esteem and I'm going to stop the bad. It was a gradual process, and rejoicing really helped. It was very important. I think it's very important to rejoice in you also, in your accomplishments, in your failures, and in your tenacity, and in you. Everyone should do that, not just people with low self-esteem. Anyway, so I was recently on a bodhicitta retreat with Geshe Damdul in Dharamsala, and he pointed out that feeling joy is what actually connects us to things. By allowing ourselves to feel joy, we are creating a stronger connection to what is beneficial in ourselves and makes it even stronger. A huge part of Buddhism is about knowing what to keep, what to adopt, what to discard, what to strengthen, and what to lessen. We need to keep and strengthen our love and respect for the Dharma. So rejoice in your decision to be here now. Yay! Rejoice in your goal to be truly contented and happy individuals, to become enlightened for the sake of all. What better goal is there? We need to give this goal great respect, and we have to give ourselves even more respect for having it. So thank you all. Hold on, sorry. The air conditioning's running, or is it the heat? I'm not too sure now. Yeah, thank you. So we thought it was a good idea if I did a more casual talk series here, which I entitled Dharamsala Through the Eyes of Western Nun. That's me. But first, I wanted to share how I began my journey. Before I met Rinpoche, I was a shy person, and as I mentioned earlier, I had low self-esteem and had been depressed for several years. I finally couldn't hold that stiff upper lip anymore. Being English, we like to hold our stiff upper lips. And like many others, I started searching for a better life, for a more meaningful and happier life. But at this point, I didn't really have faith in anything. I didn't even have faith that I would ever be happy. I was depressed, and I think along with depression comes the idea that there's just no way out of your misery, and there's no way out of life's discontent. I was just hoping there was a Band-Aid solution, a quick fix that would magically and quickly grow into happiness. I tried many things: yoga, Taoism, Tai Chi, New Age practices, even took quantum mechanics classes, retreats at ashrams. Then, after about a year of searching, I walked into the center on Lower Broadway and met Rinpoche. And that was it. My search had ended and my path began. But I still didn't have real faith. I just hoped that Rinpoche would be able to guide me to happiness. I assumed it would be a path like the Yellow Brick Road in The Wizard of Oz, all nicely laid out, with lots of singing and dancing along the way. For those of you who don't know The Wizard of Oz, it's the story of a girl, Dorothy, who gets swept away by a tornado and is taken to the magical land of Oz and meets a scarecrow, a lion, and a tin man, a man made out of tin. There lives a wizard who has promised to grant their wishes if they defeat the Wicked Witch of the North, which they do. They then go back to the wizard so they can have their wishes granted via a lovely yellow brick road, where Tony has kindly laid out nice snack tables along the way.
Yes.
Thank you, Tony. So Dorothy hopes to return to Kansas. The Tin Man wants a heart, the lion courage, and the scarecrow brains. In the end, they are all given something that makes them feel that they've gotten their wish. The Tin Man gets a clock, click, click, that makes it sound like a heart. The lion gets a medal, and the scarecrow gets a certificate of a job well done or something. But all of these qualities were actually all the time really inside them. They just hadn't acknowledged them. I assumed that inner growth would be like that, taking the yellow brick path, and I was given what I was needed at the end. I glossed over the unfun and difficult part, the part that didn't include Tony's snacks, defeating the Wicked Witch, aka our afflictions. Inner growth isn't always easy. Some have a more difficult time with it than others. It seems like a battle. Raise your hands, well, actually your virtual hands, if you feel it like it feels like a battle sometimes. Yay! Thank you. Boo, sorry, not yay. Well, yay for raising your hands and participating, but boo that there's afflictions. That's right, Tony. Thank you. So each of us have our own personal battles that we need to fight. The problem is sometimes it's very difficult to comprehend what we need to discard and adopt from within inside. It's hard to judge, to see your own issues. This is just part of human nature. That's why editors in the publishing world are needed as writers to find, oh, hold on. Hello, sorry. Sorry, I'm going to start that again. So that's why it's hard for us to see our own issues. That's why editors are needed in the publishing world, as writers find it hard to notice their mistakes. I used to be a quality assurance analyst for developers in the financial world. It was very hard for developers to find their mistakes in programs. You kind of need an outsider point of view to find them. I would find an issue and then tell the developer. They would fix it. They would fix the issue and I would retest it. Wow, what a simple process. Too bad that it can't be done when it comes to working on very personal issues, like how we behave. If I told the developer, oh, you aren't a very nice person, please fix that, they would tell me to go and, You get the idea. Change has to come from within us. We have to think it's a good idea or the right thing to do. Otherwise, we wouldn't bother. Even if that person's boss told them that they weren't a nice person, they might try and be nice for a while, but that wouldn't last, as the person needs to be true to themselves. Even if their idol, the person they most idealized in the world and looked up to, told them the same thing, it wouldn't last in the long run, as it's much like blind faith, and therefore doesn't work. That's where good teachers come in, like Chungla Rato. They come in with their skillful means. First, they know what you need to work on, what you as an individual need to remove and adopt in order to become more happy and contented people. Of course, they aren't just going to blurt it out. They're not going to blurt it out, but they use like a magic Rinpoche dust to help you. Sometimes they can be subtle. They act like a mirror sometimes. They also understand your predispositions, how much you can handle and at what time. If they know that you would completely fall apart if you knew you weren't a nice person, they would work on something smaller, like how you aren't nice to quality assurance analysts. And then they would gradually build on it from there. For others, they might push a little harder and give you a bit more to chew. They even give you, and they give it to you at the appropriate time when you're ready, which Tony just agreed to if you didn't hear him. So for others, and all of this is just extremely nice of them. They could be off playing golf or getting their nails done, but instead they work tirelessly to help us find happiness for ourselves. Anyway, Rinpoche, through his not always subtle, they were also always skillful means, but not always subtle. He helped me realize that, as Alan Wallace in his 7-point mind training mentions, that before you really delve into Buddhism, you need to get your mental house in order. I won't bore you with the details, but let's just say the process was not pretty, but I blindly followed it through. The problem is, in doing so, my ego took quite the beating, which is fine if you're a highly realized practitioner, but I was not. When it was all over, the only way I was able to recover any self-confidence and dignity was blaming something besides myself for all of my emotional upheaval. So I created some self-esteem and blamed Buddhism and left it totally. I, instead, then tried to make a go of samsara. I bet you can tell how that ended. It's a shame that at that time I didn't have actual faith in the Dharma, because otherwise I would have stayed after my mental deep clean. But what are you going to do? On the plus side, I was now very clear-minded with a good mental well-being thanks to Rinpoche and the Dharma he taught. So I made the most of samsara and got very good jobs, a nice car, a pretty house in the country in Garrison, New York, with a really pretty garden. And all of these things kept me extremely busy and very happy. In terms of home ownership. All this time, I never forgot about Rinpoche and the center and would check in remotely from time to time. I even had a dream about him. He was gardening at the side of the road, tilling the land, getting it ready for planting some shrubs. I was in a nice car with a friend and was just so happy. So I yelled out to say, hello, goodbye. He stopped and waved and then continued his gardening. Sorry. Oh, hold on. Thank you. Now, being a very tenacious individual, I was born a Capricorn. I stayed in samsara for quite some time, hoping I would eventually find real happiness and not just temporary superficial happiness. I bet you can guess if I found it or not. Finally, I did call it a day. I never found that friend that made me 100% happy. I never found that job that brought me 100% contentment. I was running out of home improvement projects that kept me so busy and focused I didn't have time to think if I was happy. Eventually, I decided to peek back into Dharma, but I was far too embarrassed to go back to Rinpoche. After all, he had been my mirror and pointed out my dirty laundry. So I went to another Dharma center close by in Connecticut under Kensor Rinpoche Losang Jampa. That is where I gained admiration for and devotion to the Dharma. That's what they call inspiring faith. Some call it a spark of inspiration, which is the basis for deeper faith. For me, it wasn't so much as a spark as it was a volcanic eruption. I was so ready, I couldn't get enough. It was like falling in love. I wanted it so much, more and more. I just couldn't get enough. I didn't like being far away from it for long. If I wasn't thinking about the Dharma for more than 30 minutes, I felt weird and got really sad, or not really sad, but a bit sad. But it wasn't like those creepy, needy falling in love things. It was more like a feeling of coming home after a long and tiring journey. I didn't regret my stay in samsara. I had learned a great deal. But I was just so hungry for Dharma knowledge. So I immersed myself in Dharma, really engaged with it. It really gelled with me, every fiber of my being. I read and learned so much. I had another short dream about Chungla Rinpoche. In it, someone had told me that Chungla gained enlightenment through Mahamudra practice. So the next day, I madly went searching for Mahamudra classes and found one at a center in DC, which was run by a former abbot of Saramay, Kensor Rinpoche Losang Tharchin, which is now run by Western teacher Wilson Hurley, while his incarnation gets a bit older. Anyway, so I studied a lot and I read a lot, all I could, and I attended as many classes as I could. Then I was in class with Rinpoche Losang Jampa. He was teaching the second chapter of Dharmakirti's Pranamavartika. Oh, I said it right. Yay. It's a book on logic and epistemology that works to prove many Buddhist concepts, including how Buddha is a reliable guide. He was on the section talking about the Four Noble Truths and how there is a door out, a way out of our suffering. I could barely hold back the tears. I finally believed that there was a way out, that I could actually be happy. I had always been a glass half empty person, although you would never guessed. For many years, I was actually a closet case pessimist. Yet I felt that because I lacked encouragement and blamed that for my negativity and pessimism, I always tried really hard to encourage others in all aspects of my life. And that's where the yay came in. Yay. And now it's, a different yay. So that's good. All the while not believing, I was like this, a closet case pessimist, all the while being supportive of others, but not believing that happiness was possible for myself. But then that all started to change. My aspirational faith had started to bloom. I was eager and full on. From then on, I treated everything like advice and applied it to my life. Geshe Lakdor at the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives, where I go to school in Dharamsala, mentions that many people approach Buddhist teachings like going to a fancy restaurant. First, they decide to go to the nice restaurant. Then they go, and then they order the delicious food, but they don't eat it when it arrives, meaning they don't apply the Dharma to their lives. which is just such a silly idea. I went to a teaching on how jealousy negatively disturbs your mind and that we should put effort into removing it. The teacher mentioned how generating sympathetic joy towards others is an antidote for jealousy, meaning that it counteracts it. So first, I needed to decide for myself that jealousy was something bad, a feeling I wanted less of. I couldn't just do it because the teacher said so. I had to believe it for myself. My first question was, does jealousy disturb my mind? Do I feel unease and uncomfortable when I am jealous? Yes. Does it create a nice feeling inside, something I want more of? No. Is it something that gets me out of the bed in the morning? Oh boy, I can't wait to get up because I'm going to be jealous of someone today. No. Would I ever say to anyone, I had such a great day today because I was jealous of someone? No. So I came to the conclusion that jealousy felt yucky and wasn't something I wanted. Before my faith in the Dharma had fully grown, I would have stopped it there because using the idea that jealousy is just a part of human nature and therefore can't be changed. But I no longer felt that way. My newfound optimism allowed me to move forward. So I tried to be happy for the person I was jealous of, whether they got a great job, a fancy apartment, a posh car, a wonderful loving partner, or what have you. I turned it into a good for them kind of thing. They did something wonderful in the past, and this is their reward. It's like a go team sentient beings. So at first, I still felt jealous, and of course still do. But just reminding myself that jealousy isn't something I wanted really helped. I don't want to feel this way, and I won't feel this way if I am happy for them. That's actually how to remove jealousy. So being jealous was actually my choice. If I didn't want this feeling of jealousy and found it hard to create sympathetic joy, I would pretend it was instead a long-lost friend that had the fancy apartment. I also tried meditating by imagining scenarios where I was able to get over my jealousy by generating joy for the other person. You might think this is a bunch of hooey, but neuroscience has shown that we use the same neural pathways when we imagine something we do as when we actually do it, which is really good. It's called the power of visualization. Is actually very popular with a lot of athletes. In fact, 70 to 90% of Olympians do this after a study was done in 1970 to show it actually did help. So when I was in a situation that made me jealous, I was more confident that I could turn it around because I had imagined turning it around in my meditation and applying the antidote. I also tried skipping forward mentally, thinking about how happy and confident I would be if I didn't really grasp on and hold on to the jealousy. I might feel it for a minute, but quickly let it go, allowing myself to feel joy. And who doesn't want to feel joy? There are so many options available. It was up to me to choose which one I used. My meal had been served, and it was up to me to eat it, which I did. Yay. Now, oh, hold on. We're going to stop for a question. Yes.
Actually, I have two questions. How do you define jealousy, or how did you understand jealousy as it was projected in the Dharma?
Well, I think I go off of my body feeling. I can kind of sense when I tense up, when I'm not comfortable. You can kind of,
Discomfort?
yeah, discomfort. I think anything that disturbs your mind. If someone says, "Oh, I got a nice job," you can kind of hear yourself think, "Oh, I wished I had that nice job." I mean, if you're very mindful, you can kind of hear your little self going, "Ee," you know.
When somebody tells me they got a nice job, I want to know what the job is.
Is that because you?
Curiosity.
Yeah. So
And the
so
other, I'm
that's
sorry, and the other
yeah.
question I
So
have.
that's not jealousy. Being curious isn't jealous.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is generating bodhicitta. I've had this question a long time. The last line is to dispel the miseries of the world.
All of the miseries or some of them?
I think maybe could we leave that to the end and keep
Okay.
no, just it would be good if we just kept to the talk. That's a no, it's a very big question is what I'm saying. So maybe I'll talk to you about it later and I can include it in part of the talk.
I've been reading that for years and I still don't understand. How do you dispel all the miseries of the world? A few I can understand, or
Yeah, the question was, how do you dispel all the miseries of the world, which is in one of our prayers. So I think that's too big of a question for me to answer now without some thought.
It doesn't include all, it just says dispel the miseries of the world, which to me means all of them.
Yeah, okay. But thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna, but, oh, yeah. So back to my little jealousy experiment. So there was times when it wasn't easy to remove the jealousy. I might have been in a bad mood. So I would remind myself of my newfound faith in the fact that it worked, and I would keep at it. My faith that I knew things would improve over time if I kept on applying antidotes. I would get less jealous, and that the jealousy would be it would just only be momentary. But it's really important to keep going, to treat it like a hobby, to not stop. If you fend off jealousy once, or even if you don't feel it so deeply or not for so long, you should rejoice. In fact, it's really a cause to celebrate. But you need to keep at it. Then when you spend more time rejoicing, you can have a lot more fun. Yippee for me in the Dharma. And I'm sure all of you have something to rejoice over. A moment that you held your tongue as you might have hurt someone's feelings. Maybe you rescued a spider from your pet's water bowl. Or maybe you said prayers with fewer mental wanderings. Yippee for you and the Dharma. It's great if we can also rejoice in other people's good deeds. I was tickled pink when I heard that rejoicing for someone else's good deeds is also helpful. So I can be happy for you. But we better stop here because otherwise we'd be in an endless loop of rejoicing. I'd rejoice for you, you'd rejoice for me, and we just would go on. And well, I'm sure we would get things done, but still, it wouldn't be such a bad thing. So the teachers at the center where I was going to were sorry. Oh, I hope I didn't look disheveled for long. Okay. So the teachers at the center were very happy with my enthusiasm. I asked a lot of questions and was very attentive. But sometimes they got tired of me mentioning Rinpoche and how I was indebted to them. And I couldn't stop mentioning it. I felt so lucky that I was really ready to start my Dharma path. I felt like Rinpoche had really helped me. Chungla Rinpoche had really helped me with that. All that emotional upheaval at that time, and it was really worth it as it got me to this point. And so how I feel it got me to the point now where I feel very deeply about the Dharma and that it's an actual jewel. In the winter of 2019, I joined a pilgrimage run by Namgyal Monastery in Ithaca, to go to Mondgud for the 600th anniversary of Je Tsongkhapa's Parinirvana. His Holiness would be teaching, and our group would be able to meet him. I realized would I also get a chance to finally see Chungla Rinpoche again and to thank him for all he did. I nearly collapsed the moment I saw him. I was so happy. 2 monks actually had to hold me up and carry me over. I didn't get to spend much time with him, but I felt like he was proud of me for returning to Buddhism and was fine with the path I was on. I laughed about it later on because I realized later that I had actually gone on that trip just to get his approval. Quite a big trip for that. But anyway, I left feeling very happy with great relief, so it was worth it. My faith then grew into trusting faith, true conviction. I was ready to lay more on the line, in fact, everything, hold nothing back, immerse myself as much as possible in the Dharma. At this point, I preferred to read or listen or contemplate the Dharma than my numerous home decoration projects. Anyway, I had painted, stenciled, decoupaged, and whatever, nearly all the walls in my house. And the garden, I spent so much time in my garden. I also more or less stopped watching television for the same reason. I worked long hours and got home really late. And I didn't want to waste the last 2 hours I had on anything else besides reading the Dharma. I started to not enjoy gardening also as much because of the bugs. When I dug a hole to plant a new rose or something, I would inevitably kill some bugs and feel bad. And my parents bought me all these beautiful shrubs and flowers like clematises and hydrangeas and peonies. And I hated seeing them being eaten by bugs, but I didn't want to use insecticide. Gardening had actually become stressful and no longer fun. I started to consider selling my house and moving closer to the center. I was on the fence about it for some time, and then a former abbot of Saramay and Gito Tantric College gave us teachings on the Heart Sutra. He mentioned to me that a deciding factor would soon appear. Lo and behold, 2 days later, a repairman was in my basement working on my huge complex water filtration system. Garrison, New York runs on wells. It doesn't have like regular water, so you need a large filtration system. So there was a snake about 5 to 6 feet long wrapped around my water filtration system, which totally freaked out the guy who was checking on it. He ran out of the basement with the water spraying all over my electrical box for the house. Really? I was lucky my house didn't blow up. Later that day, I put my house on the market. And I got a sublet in a condo in a cute town close by to that center called Bethel, Connecticut, which was very close to the center. But the best thing was there was this really cute diner called Jacqueline's, which had outdoor dining and was really nice and named after me. So I felt like I was at home. I actually did feel like I was heaven, which was weird as COVID had hit then. I felt so carefree being a renter. There was nothing to fix. I didn't have to worry about things falling apart in the future. I couldn't really decorate. There was no garden I had to worry about. The condo took care of the mowing and the snow removal. Plus, I wasn't so tied to my car. Over years of living in the country with no sidewalks, I also missed walking a lot. Plus, in Garrison, everything was 20 minutes away. So yeah, I lived in Garrison before I moved to Connecticut. And so here in Connecticut, I could walk to the grocery store and the local pizza joint. Of course, like most of us, During the pandemic, I took lots of Dharma classes. I re-met Geshe Lakdor, the Library of Tibetan Works and Archives, where I go to school. He did a wonderful class on Atisha's Garland of Gems. I met him when I was in the south of India visiting Rinpoche. As he likes to remind me often, he and Rinpoche were friends. I guess they used to have dinner together when Rinpoche was visiting Dharamsala. I was very happy with my new no commuting carefree life. For a short time, I thought I had found true happiness, or at least as close to it as one gets. Oh, hold on, we have to check the time. What? Oh, I can go for 5 minutes, or should we? Okay, I'll go for, I'll just finish this little section. So I'll just say that I thought I had found happiness. But then later it dawned on me, I was just feeling the effects of the suffering of change. It wasn't real happiness, and it was definitely not long-lasting. I had been a homeowner for over 10 years, and neither of the homes I owned were new, and they both needed a lot of work. I had gotten sucked up into tending to them as well as their gardens. It was fun for a while, but not always, and definitely always draining. Now that I was gone, I had left the house, I felt better, but this was just a reaction. Soon that reaction would thin, and my happiness created by my new carefree life would fade. It's like a teaching on emptiness of inherent existence. Walking to the grocery store in itself would not make me happy. It was only because I was not able to for so many years that it made me happy. If walking to the grocery store was inherently existent, then it would always make me happy. So I guess we'll stop at the idea of inherent existence. Is that good? Okay, thank you. Excellent. We'll talk. Yes. Thank you very much, everyone, and thanks for joining. We're not done yet, so don't go away. Is there anyone that we're going to pray for this evening? And there's no one in the chat. Les McKay and the 64 journalists.
Japanese Coast Guard.
I'm sorry? Oh.
Maya's younger brother.
Maya's young. Oh, I'm sorry, Maya. Maya's younger brother passed away. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so we'll begin. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha Bhagavat, Tathagata Arhat Samyak Sambuddha, the virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas, humans, is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is accordant with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and is appropriate. Seeing him is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strength cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He is not stained by the realm of desire. He is not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from torment. He is liberated from craving. He is crossed over the river. He is perfected in all wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats, who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all beings,
All these
and perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat.
holy Dharma is
Good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Buddha Bhakti uses Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further, seeing its purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma which is taught by the Bhagavat is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha Griyana, they enter completely. They enter insightfully. They enter straightforwardly. They enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration and join palms. They are worthy of receiving prostrations. They are glorious. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they showed the path to liberation. They're fully dedicated to these disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm.
Thank you very, very much.
So thank you very much for joining. Tony and I are going to be rotating days and also locations, just to keep you on your toes. So Tony will be teaching tomorrow, and then I'll be teaching from New Jersey next Wednesday, and then back here the following Tuesday. So anyway, thank you very much, and Happy New Year, everyone. Big love to all of you.
Good work. Exactly what it is supposed to be, and from a personal level.